About a year-ish, year and a half ago, something like that, I did the rear air suspension on this Yukon Denali here. And that wasn't terribly difficult, but it was terribly expensive. So I didn't do the fronts at the time. I was trying to save some money. The fronts weren't really that bad. And fast forward now, year and a half later, actually probably closer to a year later, I probably put up with this for 6 months. It's gotten bad in the front and it's starting to be a little floaty and a little noisy. So I'm gonna replace the front shocks as well. Now I've looked high and low for new shocks that had the electronic control in them for the fronts from the aftermarket. I can't find them. I've found places that make them. The company that makes that made the rear set that I got, Vigor, Vigor, they have one. At least they list one, but it's out of stock, and it's been out of stock for quite some time, and no particular indication that it's ever going to be in stock. So Vigor sent me these, kind of an all-in-one shock spring combo, coilover, you might call it. These supposedly have a resistor in them that fools the computer into thinking they're electronically controlled. They're not. They're what you might call a dumb shock. And that means we'll lose some of the ride control capability that the truck has, and that's kind of a bummer. But man, you know, I've looked high and low for shocks that maintain that, and there's a few companies that have historically made them, but they don't have them available anymore, and it doesn't look like they ever will. So if you want to have the magnetic ride, like for the Escalade, that might be the only one. Maybe the XL Denali, I'm not sure. I know the Escalade has it. If you're looking at that, that's RPO code Z55. That means you have the magnetic ride control. If you have Z55, like I have, that means you just have electronically controlled shocks. And nobody seems to have those anymore, other than the dumb kits that convert it, you know, disable the ride control. You can get OEM, I think I found them on Rock Auto or GMparts.com, something like that. The OEM shocks kit, the shock spring combo. And it was $550 a piece. It's a 130,000 mile truck. It's 11 years old. Spending $1,100 on the ride, it doesn't seem like a good investment to me. So I'm not gonna do it. These are a little cheaper. They were a little over $400 total. So we will do this instead. Same brand as I put in the back that do have the ride control. So we'll still maintain that. It's got the compressor in the back and the air shocks. So hooking a trailer up, camper, that sort of thing, you know, hauling something heavy, it'll at least keep the ride level, but it won't give us the same sort of dampening control that we used to have. But these aren't terribly hard to replace, so let's get after it. Wheels off, and you kind of see what we're working with here. Here's the shock and spring combo here. There's 3 nuts at the top that hold it up to the top of the frame, and then 2 these bolts at the bottom. They unbolt from underneath. These little clips here act as a nut, and you kind of see in here that bushing is pretty rotted, so it's going to be close. I think there's a mark. It's hard to see on camera here, but there's a mark right here where it's been hitting something as it compresses. So I think it's just losing its hydraulic fluid. And while I'm in here though, I like to kind of check other things since I got this open and see what else maybe needs to be done, because it is a little noisy, and it's possible that the noise is from more than just the shocks. But as I look in here, I've done the sway bar links already, and bushings. Looking at the ball joints, they look pretty good. The tie rods do not look so great. Bushings look okay, but there's a lot of grease on it. So that means it's leaking grease out. And it doesn't have much pressure in here. So they're probably need to be replaced. And I wiggle like this, it shouldn't be able to wiggle that easily. Did I mention there's a lot of grease on them? So those probably need to be done. We'll do that another time. For now, we're just gonna do the shocks. I'll get tie rods ordered though. Just a good, you know, while you're in here, taking a visual inspection, see what you're working with. Bearings and bushing, ball joints, that looks okay. Brakes. Look, I did the brakes on these not that long ago. Yeah, there's still quite a bit of pad left. So what I'm gonna do is get the jack under here and hold this up, so because as I start to unscrew this, it's going to start to drop, and put a little bit extra pressure on those nuts up there. So just so I can hold this where it is, and then I'll get those off up top. It's up on jack stand, so I have free use of the jack here. So the jack isn't pushing on it, it's just holding it steady. So it's just sitting on like the ball joint bolt underneath, behind the rotor here. So that way it doesn't fall when I start to undo the top. So it doesn't have to be a lot of pressure, just more of a, almost like an extra jack stand. This is loose, but there's two wiring harnesses on the back side. Oh, come out. Take those out. So there's those 3 bolts and the wire. This just comes off with 2 little wings. Pop that out loose. We'll reuse that, so be careful with it. And then that I think pops off. It's like a threaded. Yeah, there. Just clips over the threads of the bolt. All right, now we have access to the bolts a little easier. We'll get those out. They should not be terribly difficult to get loose. The advantage of living here in no salt country. It should come right off. It should with a deep ball. This AC line's in the way. It's on there nicely. That does not fit on there nicely, so I'm gonna do it by hand. Yeah, easy peasy. If I can get the electric socket wrench in there, not the impact, then they'll come out a little easier maybe. Impact's a little thicker. Let's try the regular socket wrench. Afraid I was never going to say that again. I'll go. Oh, of course it rolled over the other side. I'll get it later. It's fine. Okay, top's loose. So if I let this down from the jack, that should relieve some pressure here. There. So see how that flexed a little? That would have been a lot of pressure on those. Would have been hard to get off. This jack just makes it a little easier. I don't remember what those are. Are those also an 18 millimeter? Negative. I'm gonna guess 15. Stay on there. Now, this should just come up. There we go. Experience with these is not deep. It's limited, but I have some. I've done this a couple of times on these Tahoe Yukons, and it always feels like these OEM clips work great, and the aftermarket ones work less great. So I'm gonna pop these off. They come off fairly easily. They're just clipped in here. And reuse these. There's something about the other ones. I don't remember what it is. I just remember they didn't work very good. So I'm popping these off. That's all there is to it. Just pry them loose. And it'll just pop on the new one. The other thing I need to do is take this sensor off. Or this harness. The sensor is actually over to the side on the control arm. This is input. And I'm pretty sure this just unscrews from the top here. By the way, you see this kneeling pad I'm on. If you don't have one of these, you should get one. In 30, I don't know how many years of doing car work since I was a kid, just kneel on the ground, in the gravel, in the dirt, and you end up with pants with holes in the knees because you grind them on the cement, and they hurt. And this is not that expensive. It was totally worth it. 15 millimeters too small. So if you don't have one of these, I'd highly recommend it. That's usually an old man like me. Or it's a 19. No, it's 18. Okay. So 18 millimeter in this one. And just pop this loose. It slides off and we'll thread it on the new one. You have to be super tight, just don't want it to come off. Okay, now pop these clips off. This one popped off already. That's the other reason I don't like using them. They're like this, are the aftermarket ones are like tin. And that one popped off and I took it out of the box. Easy peasy. Just like before, we'll go in underneath. Ouch. We'll smash our thumb, because that's always fun. They're a little bit on the weighty side. Let's throw a nut in. Doesn't fall on us. Here. Good enough. Find it again. The other one rolled away. Okay, and we just gotta pry this up into there. This part can get a little bit hairy. It's just a little short or long, whatever you want to put it. The gap is too small. So this has to go down a little bit. It doesn't really want to. Or this has to go up a little bit. It also doesn't really want to. So the newer ones, when you get them in, there's a little bit of pressure and it takes a little bit of force. If you don't have a big pry bar, I don't really have a big pry bar. My pry bar is usually a big screwdriver, but that's not big enough. I'm going to use this ball joint fork, because that works pretty well. If you don't have anything like that, you can loosen up your sway bar link just a little bit. You don't take it off, just loosen it and give yourself some play, because it's really only about maybe a eighth of an inch or a quarter of an inch off. So it doesn't take much, but I'm gonna just pry this there. Tricky part now is lining up these bottom holes. It's hard to see in there. Just gonna feed up through that hole. There we go. Make sure you get them started. Since I can't really see them, I want to make sure I don't cross thread them. Okay, do the top. I gotta go fish that other one out. Hey, give me that back. I'm still gonna tighten them by hand because that doesn't have very much torque to it. Same with the bottom. That one, well, that one did have a little bit of the impact one has a little bit of torque to it, but where did that one go? There it is. Still want to make sure. All right, and I'll rotate this around. Put our plug back on. Put this wiring harness back on. Wiring harness doesn't seem to want to clip on anymore. Maybe there's not enough threads. Might be those threads are a little shorter on the aftermarket ones versus the factory ones. That's fine. Ain't going nowhere. Get this wheel well put back on, then we'll go to the other side and do the other one. Let's do this one with a pry bar. I'll show you the other one about the sway bar trick. All right, done. Let's go the other side. Okay, this is what I'm talking about with the sway bar. I've got it all apart, got the shock off. Now we're just gonna try to get that, there they go, there it is. Sway bar a little bit, just a little bit loose, not a ton. You know, just enough to be able to get that shock in there. Be able to pull that lower control arm down. Funny story. I don't know if you guys have maybe seen me use these lights before, these magnetic light bars. They're super nice. I started to do this about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. And I had a big box. I ordered the shocks and they only sent me one. And I don't know, like they're apparently coming in 2 separate packages, and I thought it was a big box. I thought it was both shocks. It was just the one. So the other one got lost in the mail, like quite literally. It's never been found. So they sent me another one. That's why it's taken a couple weeks to do this. Anyway, I got this all ready to get started, got it up on jacks, got the wheels off, and stuck one of these lights up here in the wheel well. And then I turned it off because I'm like, oh, I only have one shock. That sucks. Let me see where the other one is. So I turned it off to save the battery, and I never took it out. And I left it here. When I took the wheel well out, the plastic shroud, it fell down. It's been in here for 2.5 weeks. We've been driving this all over town, multiple 2+ hour trips, and it stayed up there, and it still holds a charge because it's working right now, and I haven't plugged it in. So I don't know if you're interested in one of these lights. Those are pretty good ones, I would say. All right, that's a little loosey. All right, ready. See, that was all the way out. That's what I want to do. Just loosen it. With that loose, I can push this down, and I can just work that up over. See? Now, in hindsight, now that I've done that, that was way easier. And I probably should have done that on the other side. So, if you've watched this long to see how to do this, that's how I recommend doing it. Alignment tool, screwdriver, doohickey. Also, on this one, I thought I'd try the clips that come on this. See if my theory about them not working is true, and it's not. They work fine. So they're just a little flimsy, but they do work. So the other ones I did on my parents' Tahoe, They did not work. We had to reuse the old clips. But he had a different setup and a different shock. It was a slightly older model and had a different model of shock. So maybe there's something changed on them. So give them a try if you want to, if you don't want to reuse the old ones, but keep the old ones just in case. Never know. All right, where's my doodad? Oh, forward. Yeah, see how when I clamp that down, how that one's spread out? That's what I was talking about. They're kind of flimsy, but you just got to hold the nut in, or hold the bolt in, and it does. All right, let's do the top. This one has a little more room in it at the top, the driver's. This is the driver's side. The driver's side's got a little more space. So, where did that 18 millimeter socket go? I swear. There it is. Lose my head if we're attached, as my mother used to say. And these probably aren't going to clip on, looks like the other one didn't. No, it did a little bit. That one's not going to. It's all right though. Clip our wiring harness back on. Now it wants to go back on. It's a very tight fit. It's supposed to be. It's waterproof, but still. This driver's side wheel well has multiple wiring harnesses clipped in. It's got main computer harnesses here and one. So I got one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. So just keep that in mind when you take that out. You're gonna have to clip those off and then clip them back on when you put it back up. There. That one went there. That one went. Whatever. There. Not a huge deal if you don't get them all back in. They ain't going nowhere. It was funny. This one, all the clips in the shoot. I don't remember now which one it was. One of them front or back. They were all one style. It was the front. They were all just the Christmas tree style. And the ones in the back were all the two-part pins. And I wonder if that's manufacturing differences. You know, like some parts are made in Mexico, some parts are made in the US, some parts are made somewhere else. And if that's all why they're different, is they different locations use different styles. I don't know. What do you guys think? Because they're definitely, like the bumper here has smaller holes in it. They definitely used these pins, whereas the rear by the door has bigger holes in it in the body to hook these into. I find that a little weird. I don't know. The ones up here were the anchor style. Maybe just whoever made the bumper. Or maybe they just ran out. I don't know, Bob. I got these. Just use those. Okay. I suppose. The same thing. Like these screws on the bumper side are like 1 inch long. They don't have to be, but they are. And the screws for the door side are like 1/2 inch, which is perfectly fine. All right, get the wheels back on. Almost forgot. I gotta tighten the sway bar back up. Okay. All right, so that's it. They're not terribly difficult. It looks probably like it is because it's a very dirty job. I actually have already washed my hands once, and they're filthy. A lot of brake dust, a lot of grease. There's a lot of stuff in there that's really dirty, but it's not terribly difficult. When I did the other one, I was able to fairly easily pry that lower control arm to get the shock put in the bottom. So that's why with the first wheel, we did the passenger side. That's what I tried to do. That actually turned out to be rather difficult. Loosen that sway bar link, the end link on the driver's side, way easier. So do that. Do that. And then just remember to tighten it back up, because I almost forgot, and that would have been unfortunate. Well, now, the question remains whether or not this will have the light on, the traction control or stability control, StabiliTrak, whatever it is. So, I'm going to get the wheels back on. We'll take this for a quick drive, and we'll see how that turns out. I took it for a quick drive, and everything looks good. No StabiliTrak or whatever errors. I did a couple of trips around the block. I will say this, it does feel quite a bit stiffer. Now, everybody says that, right? Especially when you get aftermarket shocks, like, well, I don't know. These feel so much stiffer than before. Well, some of that's because the shocks you just replaced were bad. So it's hard to remember back when they weren't bad, because most of us don't get them fixed right away. It takes a while for us to decide, oh yeah, they don't feel right. Something's off. This case is because it was making noise. Like I could shake the car and you could hear this like sort of almost like a rubbing, squeaky rubbing sound. That was the shock compression. I think a lot of that fluid in there had leaked out, and so it was maybe rubbing a bit. That's done, and it's quiet and it feels smooth. Like I said, it just is a little stiffer. Now, some of that also is because it's not electronically controlled, and so the electronic controls can soften the ride when it's necessary. So when you're just cruising, it's nice and soft. When you're a little bit harder driving, like highway or maybe a twisty turning through the mountains, it's going to stiffen up, and you put a load on it and it's going to adjust and stiffen the ride for braking and for load balance. And so it's not going to do that anymore. And then, like I said, that is a bit of a bummer, but it ain't worth 1,100 bucks. Like I said, I got to get those tie rod ends ordered. Those looked pretty bad, and I don't think they were causing the noise, because I don't hear the noise anymore, but they definitely were causing a bit of an uneven ride. I've done a bunch of videos on tie rod ends. I've probably done it 4 or 5 times since I started this channel, so you can go, search the channel and you can find those. I don't remember. I did the Chevelle, the Trailblazer. I think I did it on the Silverado. I've done it a few times. They're not terribly hard. So, but I'll do it again, and you can watch it this time if you care about the specifics of the Yukon. Like I said, $1,100 versus this was I think it was $430 or $440 or something like that combined for the 2 shocks, including shipping. And so that's quite a bit of savings. And a couple hours of time. I started this, about 2 hours ago. So it doesn't take very long. And actually the 2 hours is including all of this stuff, recording and changing camera angles and changing batteries because the batteries went dead, trying to get lighting just right. And so that took a long time. I've done this before, and I've done it in about an hour. If you want to do this, it's something you can save. As always, you can save a ton of money doing this stuff yourself. And I hope, again, I can give you a little confidence you can do that. Maybe you can see how to get it done. So appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you very much. And hey, we'll see you next time when we do the tie rods.